welcome to another brand new episode of Dingers and Singers, the podcast that over the next 2 weeks is going to start sounding a lot like America in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, what with all the drafting that's going to be going on. I'm Dallas, that's Drew, and that's Matt, and this is our show where we talk MLB and NFL. And as I mentioned, there are drafts going on. The NFL draft obviously coming up, we're going to get to that next week, but for today's show, later on, we are going to predict the MLB awards. We might be a little late on that, but hey, we've got a little head start now. We've seen some action. We know who might be, going to be getting ready to have a good season. Before that, we will play a new game that we have for the boys, a draft that will be the subject of which will be revealed a little later on. But for starting for the warm-ups today, we're just going to get warmed up here with some baseball news that came out. Earlier this weekend. We are recording this on the 10th of April, and just a few days ago, it was announced that the Blue Jays of Toronto signed Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to a 14-year extension. And look, we've all been there, right? We've all said, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do something, and then maybe we just do it anyway. Maybe we get persuaded to do it anyway. Vlad said, look, I'm not going to talk about extension in the season. You only have until opening day to get this locked down, or else we won't talk about it until later. But his agents kept talking to the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays gave an offer that seemed too good to resist. And now Vlad is a Blue Jay, ostensibly for maybe not for life, but for the majority of his meaningful playing career. He will be a member of the Blue Jays. So let's talk about that. What do we think? Vlad Guerrero Jr., we thought maybe he'd be the most interesting piece of the trade deadline this year. Not going to happen. And so what do we think about the extension?
Yeah, this is a move that I think is great for the Blue Jays. It's great for Blue Jays fans. I also think it was absolutely necessary for the Blue Jays to feel any sort of hope about their future, any sort of, good vibes going forward. You needed to have Vladdy locked up. We've talked about it on this podcast. They have been in on nearly every major free agent. Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, plenty of other guys, and they've missed out on pretty much all of them. And here we had, what everyone predicted to be next year's top free agent, young superstar player, great hitter, and he was already on the Blue Jays. So if they had failed to keep him around, then it's like, okay, what are we even doing? It's a ton of money, especially for someone who wasn't a free agent. It's like the most leverage we've seen from a non-free agent. Like I said, they really had to get it done. So $500 million, no deferred money. So if you take deferrals into making it, present day
an
value,
ethical contract.
Yeah, it's the second biggest contract in real money. Not to mention the $325 million signing bonus that's part of it that is spread out. And I guess from what I read, the reason for that is it's protected if there's ever a work stoppage, which unfortunately a lot of people foresee happening at the next when the collective bargaining agreement is up. But this was great for the Blue Jays, and I'll let Matt talk about it for a bit before I speak about what it could mean for other teams. But yeah, I think it's great for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's great. Anytime a team can sign one of their kind of homegrown superstars, one of their core pieces, I think that in pretty much every sport bodes well for the sport as a whole. Um, you don't like seeing super teams made out of other team stars. Like it's cool that like not every single player just eventually leaves to go to the big market team. But I'm a little bit less like I think that it's awesome that it happened, and I think it's awesome that the Blue Jays, it's good for them. It feels like they absolutely had to reach to get it done. And, we've talked about this before, and I do agree with you in the sense that, like, you know, any amount is worth it for a player who's going to make your team that much better. In theory, these guys can afford it, so pay up, doesn't matter. at the same time, I mean, it's a lot of money, and the fact that they're paying him regardless of a work stoppage, so he doesn't care whether he's playing, whether he's good, bad, doesn't play anymore. He's getting paid. Um, it feels like it's just kind of a bummer, and I know it's a different situation, but you look at some of the teams around the league, like locking up their stars just a few years earlier, and in the long run saves them so much money. And I mean, we saw what I was it our last episode. There was like that flurry of signings of like young kind of core players that were being signed to their teams. And it just you look at the contracts those guys got versus the contract that Vladdy got, you know, it costs you to wait on a player. And at the end of the day, that's just me being a little bit negative. I think it's awesome. I'm super stoked for him. I'm glad he didn't end up on a team I hate. So, all things considered, great, great stuff.
Yeah, I mean to your point, I do think it's more money than what Vlad Jr. is worth. Now, we had similar conversations with Juan Soto when he signed his massive, massive contract with the Mets. But that one's a little different because if you're the Mets, you know, trying to outbid the Yankees, then it's just a bidding war.
Yeah,
You have to keep going up.
that's on the
Um,
open market. This was behind closed doors, right? Like,
this was bidding against a stopwatch. Like uh, Vlad was all in by all indications was heading to free agency and was going to make a lot of money. Um, I don't know for sure that he was going to make 500 million on the open market because you think about the teams that would be in on him. Uh, I mean, you can eliminate about 20 teams just based on they never give out massive contracts like this,
yeah,
and then teams that don't really need a first baseman or already have such a huge payroll. There really wasn't going to be that many teams, which is unfortunately how it kind of always works. Like even Juan Soto ended up being like five teams were really in the running for
and I
him.
feel like it'd be about the same five.
Yeah, and but that being said, like Juan Soto was good every year of his career. Like his down years were like still,
Yeah,
better than a ton of players. Vlad has had like just average years. He's had two really, really, really good seasons that are better than most hitters, and one came last year. And so hopefully another one comes this year, and he's still young. He still has room to grow and everything. Um, but yeah, I don't know that he would get this contract. I don't know if he has the same reputation as a Juan Soto. And, you know, as a fan of a team that probably would be in on him, a team that apparently his friends thought he wanted to play for and all that, uh, I'm not super upset that we didn't, give someone a $500 million contract with that reputation. Um,
that's
so
exactly how I feel because, there's obviously the rumors of all the people kind of shared DR stuff for the Padres. But then, the Merrill contract happens, this contract happens, and we look back and say, we get Merrill and Tatis for the exact same price as they get just Vlad. And I
mhm.
love Vlad, but like you're talking about two absolute superstars for one usually superstar, usually. So it's good for them, and I'm happy for him too. I mean, that's obviously insane amounts of money. So like the Guerrero family, they were already good. They're even better now. Um,
Yeah.
but
And I wouldn't worry about him. He doesn't seem the type to be, sorry for the stray Anthony Rendon, like, getting his money and just checking out. I think, he comes from his
he
dad.
comes from money.
He comes from money, so he didn't like need it to begin with. His dad is a Hall of Fame player. He has Hall of Fame aspirations. I know he wants to win in Toronto. Like, I think we're not going to see a lazy Vlad Jr. I think we're going to see still a motivated Vlad Jr. to do well. And I think the Blue Jays, they're one of those teams with enough payroll space. I don't think this would necessarily handcuff them. We'll kind of see how this all plays out if other players still just don't want to go to Canada or whatnot. But to
Well,
me,
that
this
was
is,
the other thing. What I heard, and obviously this was just I saw a video of other people on a podcast talking, so who knows what they know because we know nothing. But like I heard that the signing bonus on his contract was set up even to take place in his state of residence, not in
oh yeah,
Canada.
Florida for tax
So
purposes.
he's
Yeah,
getting no taxes on that contract. So it's one of those things like they really like they might have paid a lot and all that, but it's like they might still be able to attract players. I mean, Bobby or Bobichet's next, right? He's
yeah.
up
He's
this
he's
year.
also he's also was on the same schedule as Vlad. So and he was terrible last year and hurt.
Yeah.
So he's in a different situation.
So he's gonna
Um,
be maybe 400.
well, yeah, with the way things are going. But yeah, the Blue Jays have started hot, not like on fire, but and we'll get to them in a minute when we talk about our own teams. But um, yeah, things are looking up in Toronto after a depressing offseason. Getting this done was big for them,
Yeah.
and I think it opens the doors for a lot of teams who are going to check in on Vlad. They get to now see what else they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, good for the fans. They've got that jersey that everyone knows they can buy, right? That's always fun to have. Speaking as a fan of a team that had that happen to them, like however many years ago that was that Trout signed the second extension. We knew that was a safe one. So and I think it'll be interesting to watch how his extension, his one team career goes compared to Mike Trout's, like something like that. Can he learn, or can the Blue Jays learn from, what's gone on with the Angels and Mike Trout, and actually try a little bit harder to build a winner around this one player now that they have him locked up. So we'll see. It'll be interesting and fun to watch. But last thing I want to do before we get into the real meat of the episode is check in on your guys' predictions from last week. Right. So last week we, for the first time in the regular season, we made some predictions for the next week. And let's check in on how those went. So, Drew, let's start with your predictions.
Yeah,
Check in on those for us. How'd you do?
let's start there.
Well, my National League prediction was that Dylan Cruz would have a good week,
Mm-hmm.
basically, that we would forget about his early season struggles. And, as I drop my pen, if we're calling it, hit, miss, or it's somewhere in the middle, I think this was somewhere in the middle. He has 5 hits in the last week, which is 5 more than he had in the start of the season. But still, a lot of work to be done. That he still has multiple 0 hit games this past week. Still needs to get it going. Still needs to find it. So he's not maybe the story of that is now no longer a thing, but he still has work to do. And then my American League prediction was that the American League Central would still be Toilet Town. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
would be terrible. Not really the case. There are still the very terrible White Sox.
Yeah.
But the Tigers and the Guardians, especially Tigers especially, they won a series against the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, them and the Guardians both have winning records now, and so that division looks a lot more like an actual division than it did a week ago. So, and the Royals, yeah, I mixed the Guardians and the Royals up. So the Guardians are now 500, the Royals are a game above 500, and Tigers are 7-5. Twins are still bad, so that looks great for me and Matt's predictions to start the year. And the White Sox are, of course, terrible. But yeah, so not a great week for me in terms of accurate predictions, but we keep moving forward and I'll keep predicting things.
Yeah, I'd say the spirit of your NL prediction, the Nationals did, take it to the Dodgers, and
Yeah.
so, the spirit of it was, Dodgers maybe, watch out for these Nationals. Maybe there's something in there, and there was. So,
Yeah.
we'll give you some points there. But, let's go over to Matt for your predictions from last week. Remind us of what they were, and then let us know how you did.
Yeah, so I'll start off right with my National League one. I predicted that the Padres were going to be undefeated at the time of today's filming. Um, as of today, the Padres are in first place. So the like actual specifics of the like prediction don't necessarily matter. We're first place in all of MLB. Great, great stuff, right? Um, we don't need to talk about, the day of prediction, Padres going out and absolutely just getting stomped by Cubs. Um,
Yeah.
it happens, it happens. Every baseball team ever has lost a game. So, I'm not going to take it too hard. I understand the reality of baseball is, you lose, but definitely bummed that we weren't the one to get it done this time. Maybe next year. And I can't lie, that really took up all my mental. I don't even remember what my AL one was. It didn't even matter after the Padres lost. It just I was in such a rut for the whole week. Uh, I don't even remember what my AL one was. Probably was wrong too at this rate. So I don't know. If I was, someone tell me in the comments. Was I wrong?
I don't
Maybe.
remember.
I used to say I don't remember either. We'll start taking note of these now that we can.
Yeah, I'll have to write my own down.
So we'll remember.
If only we got it on tape. If somewhere we
Yeah,
recorded it,
yeah. If
we would be able
only.
to
That
figure
would
this
have been
out.
perfect.
Yeah, if only. But yeah, it was very, if it had to happen, if the Padres had to lose a game before today, I'm very glad it happened the very next day that you said, after you said that, because it was the funniest way for it to happen. And
Just
so, yeah,
instantly.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so that was the locked-in predictions from last week, how we did there, the review of those. And now let's go into sort of our main feature for today's episode. One of two features that we have here, two segments. So this one, I mentioned we were going to do a draft later. Well, here we are at the draft. So what's going to happen is we are doing a home run draft. And so what that's going to look like is Drew and Matt are going to, they each have 15 spots to fill on their roster, making for a total of 30, one for each team. So what they're going to do is they're going to draft 10 position players, and then with the idea that the person that finishes the year having their team net the most home runs will win this draft. And so 10 position players and 5 teams pitching staffs they will draft. And so at the end of the season, we'll run those numbers. And how the scoring will work throughout the season is that obviously you get 1 point for every home run one of your position players hits. And you get -1 point for every 3 home runs your pitching staffs allow. And so that'll make up the points total at the end of the season. And the rules of this draft are that, once a team has been selected, so once a player or a pitching staff from a specific team has been taken, that team is off the board. So there will be representation for all 30 teams on this list here because, eventually they'll whittle it down. But so yeah, that applies cross position. So, if someone picks the Nationals pitching staff, you can't take any Nationals position players to hit your home runs. And so, that's sort of an example of how that might work. And then, scoring will be retro to the beginning of the year. So you got a little bit of a jump to see, who's in the lead right now, who you might want. And so take advantage of that. But scoring will be retro to the beginning of the season, and then we'll go all the way through the end. So, that's how this will work. It'll be Drew and Matt drafting, and then we'll have some fun with this. So, did I miss any rules? I don't know.
Did you say the thing about we're only counting home runs for that they hit while they were playing the position they were drafted at?
Yes, right. So that is that is an important rule. That is an important rule. So your home runs only count if they're playing the position they're drafted at, and there is utility player position on your guys' roster for each of you, one spot where you can draft anyone from any position, and you can get them there. So, that'd be a good spot to use, for someone who's maybe a little bit more versatile. You never know what you want to use it for.
Like, if Mookie Betts were to get drafted, which might not be a bad pick, it might be like he's their shortstop now. Will he always be their shortstop? I don't know. Good question.
Right.
But he also has a teammate who hits a lot of home runs, so that might not even be a problem.
Maybe that won't be an issue.
But yeah, and then I didn't didn't put this on the rules here, but I just thought of it. If a player that gets drafted gets traded, that's not going to matter for like, oh, they're on a different team now, so their home runs stop counting. They'll still count. They'll just be a
Yeah.
team without representation at the end.
Yes, they're frozen in place here, regardless of team shifting, things like that. So yes, good distinction to make. All right, so I think we're ready, clear on the rules. So let's pick the draft order, and how we're going to do that is I'm going to select a number between 1 and 10. You guys are going to guess, and whoever's closest gets to go first. This will not be a snake draft. This will go back and forth. So the first position is an advantage here. So, a pure advantage for the first position. So let me think of my number. All right, I've got it. Now, Drew, give me a number.
9.
Matt, give me a number.
Ooh. Okay, then I'll go 6.
My number was 4. So Matt goes first. All right.
Yes, sir.
I was thinking
so,
after I said 9, like, oh, he can just say 8 and then has a real good chance.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gave me a lot of wiggle.
I was going for the direct hit, and I didn't get it. That's okay.
to the far end.
Honestly, you have to respect a swing and miss.
You have to, that's a good, that's a good thing to remember for this draft. Maybe some of the guys that you draft swing and miss a lot, but hey, when they connect, that'll be good for you. Okay,
Exactly.
Matt. So you're first.
Yeah, first
So-
pick has to be Joey Gallo, right?
Why don't we get to it?
The 2017
Minor league teams aren't on here. Minor league teams aren't on here.
We'd have to add
okay.
a lot of spots.
I will say the first round's likely, it
feels
a toss-up.
predictable.
Yeah, it's
It
not,
feels
almost not a
predictable.
bad thing to have the second pick because it's like I'll just take whichever one you don't.
Yeah.
pick, but
Yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, though, I think I have to take Mr. Judge. I think
Yeah.
it feels silly not to in a year where Shohei may start pitching and
Yeah.
maybe they'll pull him out of the DH spot a little bit more. I feel like I got to stay safe. Maybe he'll even get a torpedo bat and hit 80 this year. Who knows?
Yeah, who's to say? But there's Aaron Judge going first. I have to say that would have been my first pick as well, for the exact reason you said. I think that's a good. But there's no going wrong with
Yeah.
who I assume will be selected at the number 2 spot.
Yeah,
Drew,
I think I definitely would have taken Judge as well. But I'm not mad at the second pick being a guy who went 50-50 last year. That's Shohei Ohtani. He will be my DH.
That is the world's greatest consolation prize.
He will, he might lose some home runs by pitching days, but I trust, these are the two guys that, as long as they stay on the field, you can pencil them in for 40 at least. So that's the logic there. And now we get into the actual drafting.
Yes. So now that that's finished, let's start making it a little hard. Okay. So Matt, what's the third overall pick?
That's tough. That's really tough. Already, I'm nervous.
I have no real strat here, by the way. Like I didn't do a bunch of prep for this. I'm just gonna
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure.
I'm just gonna wing it. I'm curious when the first pitching staff's gonna get taken because it's like that to me is such a like crapshoot, but at the same time, you might want to get some early.
Yeah, I have considered that. And we're including whole, right? Not just starters, but it's like top to
Yeah,
bottom.
everyone who
starters,
pitches for that
bullpen.
team. Yep.
Incredible.
Yep. The whole squad.
Incredible. Okay. I think for my next pick, I don't know if I love it, but I don't know if I know where else to go that I want to. I'm sticking to New York. I might take Juan Soto.
Totally.
All right.
Totally fair.
Definitely respectable pick there.
He is Mets. Okay. Judge and Soto back in the lineup together.
Wow. If only that could happen in real life. Can you imagine?
They probably would have won. Unless they were playing against the guy on the other side, Shohei.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine?
That's
that
like
in this
the
lineup?
one way they could.
Yeah, solid pick. I mean, you could that was like one of the teams where it's like
There was two
it was
people on that team.
either Soto or Alonso, but I think Juan Soto was the more safe bet.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I'm gonna go with someone who's come out to a hot start, and I trust that he will be able to continue it despite playing in maybe not as pitcher friendly of a park this year. I'm gonna go with Kyle Tucker for an
Oh,
outfielder from the Chicago Cubs. I
that's a
think
great pick.
if he stayed like last year, he was on pace to have an MVP type season. Didn't stay healthy enough, but he's in a contract year. He's
Hmm.
come out to a hot start, and I kind of zeroed in on the Cubs there and got tunnel vision. Forgot to think about other teams, but I think that's still a good pick.
Hey, the Cubs are great. I think Kyle Tucker is one of the best players in the league. He was definitely on my radar coming up soon.
Hmm.
Okay. I think for my next pick, I'm I I've gone big. I've gone with some bigger guy. I'm gonna go bigger. I'm going Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, he was definitely
Uh-huh.
in the running there. So
Another one
he's
off
Yeah.
to a good start.
another DH off the board.
Yeah, no more DHs.
I think if this was like, if there was an element of this where it was like the home runs also have to be obvious and, look like it right away, that would be the number one overall maybe, because there's
Yeah,
nothing like a Schwarbaum right off the bat. There's
he
nothing like
makes
it.
it so obvious.
Nothing
Yeah,
like it. It's so fun.
yeah. Okay, so this is it's tricky. I'm trying to weigh strategy here, and I think I'm gonna go with a more of I'm gonna pick position based rather than pure home run total based, and think
Mm,
about a position that doesn't get a ton of home runs, but there's a guy who leads that position in home runs nearly every year on a team that doesn't hit that many home runs. I'm gonna go with Seattle Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh.
Mm.
that's a good pick.
I consider their pitching staff because
Big
it's
dumper.
oh yep, big dumper indeed. It's always a good pitching staff. It's a good pitcher's park and all that. But I just kind of have a feeling like the pitching is not going to be the big difference maker. You're going to want to just hit more home runs. So
Yeah.
going with Cal.
Dude, did you see the video that they posted of him like on the big screen dumping someone at the park?
No, that's funny.
It was just like in the middle of an inning, they're switching out and he just pops up on the screen and he's like, "Hey Tony, I'm sorry it has to be me to tell you, but it's not working out with, whatever name it
Yeah,
was."
yeah,
And then it was a whole thing. It was like, email Big Dumper for all your dumping.
that's funny. That's
That's pretty
funny.
good. Pretty good. A bobblehead celebrating his platinum glove coming up, I think, over there, and I think the kick of it is that it's facing the other way.
It's cheeked up.
Um, yeah, nice big big bobble butt there. That you get. All right, so that's Kyle Raleigh off the board, and look,
Whew.
one of the pitching staffs that was maybe could have been maybe good to have is off the board too. So
Uh-huh.
that's a double strat right there, is to
I'll leak
not
some
allow.
strategy. They were one of my top pitching staffs.
Yeah, they were on my
Yeah,
list too, but we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. I think, I think, what do I think? What do I think? Um, this is tough, dude.
Hmm.
This is way tougher than I thought. As soon as we got past like the first like five players, I'm already like now thinking like positional value, and that's gonna throw me for a loop. Um, shit. What do I want? Um, you know what? Let's pull. Let's pull. I'm gonna take the Padres pitching staff.
All right.
The first pitching staff off the board.
Pitching staff, my pitching staff. Good park, good pitchers.
True. Absolutely. Off to a good start as well this year, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our bullpen has let up like 4 total hits.
That's a good recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And shout out Jeremiah Estrada. Played against Luke, my brother, in high school.
Did he
Nice.
really?
Uh, yeah.
Eh,
Um, you know what? Okay, I don't know if this is the best move, but I'm gonna take a pitching staff too, just to make sure I get a good one. I'm gonna go with the Detroit Tigers pitching staff, in part
Nice.
because they don't have a slugger that I trust to hit a lot of home runs, and in part because they have good pitchers. I mean, Tariq Skubal, of course, but they've got a decent staff there, and they've got a deep home ballpark in a cold home ballpark, uh, and they play in a bad division. So all those factors went into that choice. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Tigers.
The
I
Tigers. Casey Mize off to a good start this year too.
Yeah, hey, I believe I
finally,
said
dude.
he was the what is the X factor
Oh
for
yeah.
the Tigers this year. So,
There you
and
go.
they look pretty good.
They sure do. All right, next pick.
Okay. So here's where I'm starting to get like, there's guys who I'm like, I'm starting to balance like, do I take the guys who are just playing well right now, or the guys who historically play well, right?
Hmm.
And I'm debating. Dallas, if it was up to you, no context. The guy who's always good or the guy who's good now?
I think at this point you still got to go with the guy who's always good. It's still a little
Guy
early.
who's always good. Guy who's always good. Okay, I'm gonna take Mike Trout.
Okay.
The outfield
I
is filled.
Outfield is filled. I was debating because I was also thinking I could go Logan O'Hoppe. He's been off to a really great start. There's not a lot of power from the
That's
catching position,
that's true.
but if Mike Trout's healthy, every single hit he has in a season might be a home run.
And he had two today in that monstrous Steinbrenner ballpark. We'll get to that a little bit later. But he had two today. But I agree. Like if he can be on the field all season, he's the angel I would pick. That is a little bit of a big if at this point, but
It,
I think that it might still be the best pick.
yeah, I just
Yeah,
the possibility of a 40 plus home run season has so much value where
Yeah,
it's like I can absolutely see, Logan O'Hoppe going for 25, but the difference between 40, 45 home runs versus, a other outfielder who gets 35 feels different than like if you miss out on catcher and all of a sudden your catcher hits like 8.
yeah.
So, I don't know. Trust the
yeah.
gut. We'll go with it.
I think Trout's the pick. Obviously, there's a caveat with anyone. You got to stay healthy, but and
Mhm.
maybe his is a little more defined.
This is more of a
Um,
crevasse.
I'm gonna go. This is interesting because when we were growing up, this would have been the position that was the most stacked. Nowadays, in terms of home runs, it's not necessarily the case anymore. One of the
Yep.
big home run first basemen is already off the board, unavailable because Juan Soto got taken. No Pete Alonso. I'm gonna
Yep.
go with the guy we talked about who just got paid and take Vlad Jr. for the Toronto Blue Jays, who does not have a home run yet. Um, but
Bold.
I just trust that he will, and he will have plenty. And out of the first baseman that it was possible to take, I have a good feeling that he could be at or at least near the top of that list.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
He's got that extension power now. You never know. What it does for some guys is that the opposite, but for some guys, it really gives him that boost. His mind's not on, am I going to get traded, things like that. He's free. He's a little bit loose. So I like this pick too.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, he's just obviously a great, just pure hitter, so that feels good. Um, Interesting, very interesting. Um, Dude, I think with my next pick, I'm gonna go a little weird. I'm gonna go with Tyler Soderstrom from the Oakland Athletics or
Y-
Sacramento Athletics, whatever you want to
You
call them.
know, I wondered if that's who you were talking about when you said the guy who
So
started
did I.
strong.
So did
Uh,
I.
but I don't think that's a bad pick.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking. Apparently, last year they were still a great power hitting team. This year they're like top 3 or 4. They're playing in a friendly park. Like it just feels like a team that's going all in on just going ham. So I'm
Yeah,
really filling
absolutely.
out my AL West teams. So I'm feeling really good about that.
Okay, okay. This is my first real uh, conundrum here because I have a few people in mind, but I'm looking around. Uh, this is tough, but I think I'm gonna go with a guy who nearly went 40-40 last year, a guy who is always in the running for MVP, uh, and a position that doesn't maybe have as many big home run guys as it used to
Yeah,
also,
yeah,
and I'm going to take Jose Ramirez to be my third
yeah.
baseman.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was considering him.
I watching him in the Angels home opening series when they came to Anaheim, it was, I mean,
He does everything.
he was going crazy
He
in that
literally does
series.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really good.
Okay. It's a good pick. It's a good pick. Gotta respect it. Um, okay. You know, let's get weird with it. I'm gonna take the Giants pitching staff.
Yeah, yeah,
They're not my favorite pitching staff, but they're my favorite park. Um,
Hmm.
Not really much else to say about it than that. I don't want any of their hitters necessarily. I mean, Willie Adames
right.
is like cool. Chapman might be cool, but they're gonna be one of the next, if not the next, pitching staff. So might as well take them myself.
Hmm.
Yep, it's a classic, It's cold there, in those evening games. You like that for home runs.
Yep.
And the park is what it is too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were definitely after I chose Jose Ramirez, therefore eliminating the need for Matt Chapman for me. If the
Yeah.
Giants came to me, it was going to be for pitching. Um, okay, I'm just going to think out loud a little bit here. There are 4 teams still left that have shortstops that I like for this draft, and I don't know which one I like the best, so I'm going to wait on that a little bit. I'm going to let it maybe figure itself out. And I'm going to jump the gun on my utility and
Hmm.
Okay.
take uh I'm going to take Matt Olson from the Atlanta Braves
Ah,
to be
I
my
was
utility
literally
pick.
about to.
Matt Olson, one of those classic, the classic guys who, you know, it's very much like it's even like Jose Ramirez, but maybe even a little bit. He's less than that, but also less talked about even than he is. But
Yeah.
yes, sneaky good right there in that spot.
Yeah, just so consistent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you took Soderstrom, which like that was a good pick. He was on my radar too, but when you took him, I was like, okay, so Braves is still sitting there. I didn't
Yeah.
love necessarily any other position players there, um, with Acuna missing so much time.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's a good pick. It's a really good pick, Drew. Okay. What do I want? Second baseman, dude. Who can play second base? What a joke. Ah, I can't even say Altuve anymore, can I? He only plays
Yeah,
like
well,
a couple
you
innings.
you
You,
can, but
you
it just might not
could.
work out well for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I was so confused. So my roommate, he's big Mariners fan. We're watching Mariners versus Houston, and I swear in the same inning, I saw him get the put out at first, be the guy they're throwing to get an out on a attempted stolen base at second, and playing in left field. Can you just like move around wherever you want? Is that a
Yeah,
thing?
as long as you're not out of the game, you can move.
So they were just throwing him wherever.
I guess they used to like when National League pitchers had to hit. Um, there used to be some craziness where they would bring in a pitcher and then make him play left field for like one batter so that they wouldn't have to take him out of the game, but they also wouldn't have to face a certain guy. And then they like put him back in. Like
I
you
actually
can get
remember that.
you can get crazy with it, but you don't see it as much anymore. But yeah, you can move guys around wherever.
Um, yeah, let's go ahead and ignore second base. That scares me. Um, oh, this is really tough. I'm getting to a point now where I'm unsure. I'm unsure of what to do. Um, let's see here. You know what? I will go ahead and I'm gonna use up my utility spot as well. I'm gonna take Brenton Doyle of the Rockies because God forbid I have to take their pitching staff.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, one of you wants the hitter for the
Uh,
Rockies for
I'm playing
sure. Yeah.
I'm playing defensive at this point.
Yeah,
Can't leave that to the end.
I didn't know what to do with the Rockies. I'm actually glad you chose someone there because it's like, yeah, I definitely didn't want their pitching, but it was like,
There's
who?
nobody you want to take really either.
Yeah,
It's
like
like you want
maybe
like
Tyro Estrada, but then he got hurt, so
yeah, and even like then I was just like, you know what? The utility spot's there for a reason. Brenton Doyle's good. I
yeah,
don't need him to hit 50. He can hit 20, and I'll be like, okay.
absolutely. I'm also kind of looking at the White Sox, wondering what the move is there.
You're talking about
Um,
Luis Robert Jr.,
yeah, I mean, I guess
the only good player there.
I'm gonna handle second base because you lamenting the second base position got me thinking, and I see one, and I know he's injured right now, but
That's exactly who I was thinking about taking, but I was like, I don't
one
know.
one who stands out as better than the others. That's Ketel Marte at the Arizona
Yeah,
Diamondbacks.
damn it.
I think even with missing some time with it, it's a hamstring injury. I think he still has a good chance. Just the second base position doesn't have thumpers, so I mean, there's you know you're not going to be left with scraps. There's some guys out there
Yeah,
who could put up some good seasons, but I just think he was great last year, and I trust him to be great again when he comes back.
yeah, that's a good pick. So Diamondbacks and Rockies come off the board there.
So that division is done.
NL West,
Uh,
yeah, NL West down. Nobody else can come from there.
Some good representatives. Some good representatives. Okay. I think I'm going to lean heavy onto this. I don't know if this is going to be my downfall or like what really carries me. I'm going to go with the Pirates pitching staff.
that was going to be my next pick.
Yep.
I think good, yeah, very good there.
Yep. I was debating
Uh,
if I wanted to go for O'Neal Cruz, but I don't trust. I don't trust.
well, you don't have a position for him anymore because
Right.
Well,
he's an
technically,
outfielder.
sometimes he plays shortstop. Sometimes.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been worth it. I don't think.
Save him for the stolen base draft.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah,
All
and
right,
my
yeah,
second pick, Manny Machado.
that's a good pick, and now I'm getting to the point where I'm a little worried about what's going to be left for me in the pitching department if I keep taking hitters.
Hmm.
Because I'm already looking around and I don't love what I'm seeing pitching wise.
uh,
I'm gonna go ahead and eliminate though one of the teams that has a good shortstop and take their pitching staff. I'm gonna take the Kansas City Royals pitching staff
I
because
was
I
going to be my
feel
shortstop.
yeah I feel okay doing that because there are other, like I said before, there are other good shortstops. All of those other teams that I mentioned are still out there. And I just like when I picked the Tigers, like I like this division for pitching, and Cole Ragans and Seth Lugo were both great last year. They have a good bullpen, so need to get some
It's a good pick.
some kind of competency there.
It's a good pick for sure. Um, okay. Okay. That leaves me in an interesting spot. I'm not sold on like anybody at this point. Um, I mean, I'm basically I got catcher, second, third, short, and a couple more pitching staffs. So, and then if I'm looking at the screen right, every team that's blacked out, I assume, is obviously the teams that are no longer.
Every team with black with pink letters, because some of the teams,
Yeah.
like the White Sox, are still there. Um,
Yeah.
So if you
Okay.
want, they're still there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I need to stop picking bad teams. I need to stop playing tennis. Let's go on the offensive here. But you know what? Hold on. Let me check this. I need to be certain. Um, okay, yeah. Let's let's do it. Who cares? Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles, shortstop.
yeah,
Mm.
that was definitely one of the guys. Whoops.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yep, I would do that.
Dang, Dallas. I didn't know you swung that way.
Hey, any of them, they all look the same. So any of them can get it, really.
Any Baltimore Oriole player, I would.
Any of them can get it, really.
All right. Yeah,
All right,
so
Gunner.
all right. I still have shortstop. I still have two outfield positions that I need to fill. I'm going
True.
to take one of those now, even though, well, Matt can't take any more outfielders. So does that play into my strategy?
No, because I
Actually,
could take their pitching staffs.
I should. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There is a pitching staff you talked about a lot in the preseason being really good. The Brewers.
Yeah. See, the Brewers have given up an insane amount of home runs, so I figure we're safe on
When?
them.
When?
I don't know when.
Um,
No, I don't remember.
I okay. I'm debating shortstops here. One has a way bigger track record, but also hasn't always been able to stay on the field. And one is just a freak of nature. I'm gonna bet on the freak of nature, and I'm gonna take
Yeah,
Elly Cruz
yeah.
to be my
Mm.
shortstop.
Yeah.
When you start getting inside the park home runs, does that count? Have we discussed
They
this?
do. They do
Yeah,
count.
Little
for
league home
sure they
runs
do.
count?
For sure they do,
Little League
yeah.
home runs don't because that's always errors are involved.
Errors. Yeah.
But if a true inside the park home run does count for a home run.
He's the only person on this entire board right now who I believe could. So,
Get the right bounces, Cal Raleigh could get it done.
Yeah. Maybe like 10 or 12 bounces. A gopher pops up and takes the ball down the hole for a couple minutes. I think that'll work.
it's a good pick. It's a real good one. I'd argue a great one. Okay. You know what? Shoot, no, that's not gonna work. I
Definitely
was about to
not.
break I was about to break your heart and it turns out I can't.
I don't have anyone specific in mind for the Red Sox.
Well, my thought was Rafael Devers. I mean, I'll take the bet on a good prolific hitter that's a lefty with a short, right field. He's a DH now. He's not really even a third baseman.
Yeah, yeah, he's
Yeah,
not playing
correct.
third base
So
at all.
that wouldn't work great for me.
I wouldn't recommend it, no.
I still
They
might
they
consider it.
they
You
still
could,
they still have a third baseman who might be the
yeah, I was gonna
best.
say you could take their third baseman if you wanted.
No, not particularly, not yet at least. We'll see how the rest of this shakes out. I mean, there's always a chance that I do. Looking at the rest of these players, because I don't know what's I don't know what's going to go on with some of these. Hold on. I need to look up who even plays for some of these teams. Damn, who's still available? This is tough. Um, yeah, this is really tough. These last teams, you kind of don't want a ton of players from any of them.
I think I know where I would go if I was you.
Oh,
But
that's
do I
good.
but do
Do you
I
want to
tell
share?
you?
You want to share your plans? Oh, part of me thinks you might just be saying that just to get in my head. I'm gonna take Jonah Heim, catcher for the Rangers.
Interesting. Okay. I don't think that's necessarily a bad pick. I
He's
just
decent. I, I just don't know what else I would do here. I don't know if there's any obvious spots unless I'm really blanking on something.
I think I thought you might go Milwaukee's catcher, Contreras. Um, but
Also good. I did look, but I don't know.
no,
I'm
it's
hoping that you get forced into their pitching staff.
well, I won't. I'll tell you that. I'll leave
Well,
them
there's a
open.
chance.
You know what? I'm gonna take Jackson Churio.
I think
um,
you should.
because uh, he's good, and the Brewers pitching
You
staff
can't
is
really
not
argue
good.
that.
He started off really strong this year. I don't know if he's gonna have like high end power numbers, but he'll have enough uh, to make it worth not having their pitching.
Hmm.
See, there was a world where I tried to play Luis Robert Jr. at second base just in hopes of you getting pinned with the Brewers pitching staff.
Yeah, put him there in case. In case, yeah. No, this does
Okay,
get interesting because we're gonna definitely have bad pitching staffs.
I've got
Yes.
great pitching staffs. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is not my favorite. Um, pardon me. Okay. I'm gonna go with someone who this is where I'm really taking a risk is because I'm not as in tune with baseball, and there's a real chance that I'm mixing this guy up with someone else that you mentioned as an X Factor at one point.
Okay.
But I'm gonna take a risk here. Third base, I'm gonna go Isaac Paredes or
Isak
yeah,
Paredes,
You
yeah.
suck
Isaac
Paredes.
Paredes.
No, he should
You
hit
said I, if
plenty of home
I'm
runs.
not mistaken, you said he hits a lot of home runs to specifically the left field of the Astros.
Plays well
I'm
for him.
like, I'm super positive you said that. I'm
Yeah.
confident in that pick.
AOS, second full division off the board.
All right. Well, at this
West
point,
Coast hype.
there is no way around me getting a terrible pitching staff, or maybe even three.
Hmm.
So I'm just gonna try to get the best possible outfielder left, and then just let the pitching fall. So I'm thinking through these teams because Matt can't take an outfielder. It's the only position I have
I
left
could.
besides pitching. So I'm going to go through team by team and think out loud. Cardinals, they don't really have anyone that excites me in the outfield. They've got Lars Nootbaar, Victor Scott, Jordan Walker. Uh, I'm not going to take the Cardinals. They're going to end up being one of our pitching staffs unless you sneak in and take a second baseman there. Twins have Byron Buxton, who doesn't stay on the field very much. They have Matt Wallner, who I kind of like. We'll come back to them. Luis Robert Jr., of course, would be the White Sox pick to avoid having their pitching staff, but I don't know if their pitching staff is going to be so much worse than any of these others in terms of giving up home runs. Nationals have James Wood. They have Dylan Cruz. I like James Wood. I expect big things from him. I'm not going to take the Marlins. Rays are kind of, sneaky, not that good in the outfield either, especially home run wise. And then the Red Sox, you got Jarren Duran, who last year he hit about 20, which is
Hmm.
good.
That was an
Uh,
uptick.
Willier hit like 15 last year. He already has a few. Started off very strong. I could I could be cheeky and take Roman Anthony and expect him to hit more than 20 when he comes up. I don't know about
Yeah.
that. But you know what? All these pitching staffs are are not too inspiring to me.
It's tough.
I might okay, you know what? I just talked through all that and I actually see one pitching staff that I think is better than the others even if they don't play at a good park and I'm going to take the
Mhm.
Rays pitching staff just to like
That
give
was my
myself a
next pick.
little give myself a little bit of a breather. and and then, one of those outfielders I just mentioned will still be there and
True.
we
True. True.
we can revisit this. So, it was a misdirect all along.
Oh, yeah, that was my next pick. That's tough.
Took away Brandon Lau also as a potential second baseman from you.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um. hmm, Don't love this. Don't love what you've done to me here. So I'm basically picking. I personally have one more pitching staff I'm even a little bit remotely excited about, and they also have the second baseman I'm most excited about.
Interesting.
Problem is, I don't watch enough games to know. I'm basing this purely off of where they have eligibility. Um, I mean, I'll think out loud here. We're at the end. There's not much. There's not many cards left to hold. I'm between the Red Sox pitching staff and Christian Campbell.
Yeah, I
To my
think
knowledge, he plays second base at least
yeah,
semi-frequently.
second
Um,
base is his position. He will play outfield here and there, but I think that like that's not the plan at all long term. I think if someone got hurt in the outfield, they would just call up Roman Anthony and Campbell's usage would not change too much.
yeah, because my thought was there's no one on the White Sox I'm interested in. I'm not particularly high on the Cardinals for second base. Twins don't excite me at second. Nationals have a guy who only hits for contact at second. Same with the Marlins, really.
Yeah, I think he is the best second baseman on the board.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if the amount of home runs he hits is going to outweigh the value of how bad some of these pitching staffs are. Um,
Yeah, and I have no idea. I picked three home runs given up equals minus one home run just out of the blue. Like I didn't do research to like see. So we very well could like end up in the negatives, both of us,
That's true.
if I overshot it. I don't
but
know.
who's not worse?
Right.
Um, you're right. You're right. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I need a second baseman, Christian Campbell. I think he's really the only viable option who even remotely profiles for power. So
He already has a couple, and they were both, I believe, days that he started at second. I think.
well, I'll be excited either way. I don't care where he plays.
Well, you should care because they only count if he's playing second base.
It's this late. I've stopped caring.
Okay, I think I'm gonna kick the can down the road again, and I think I am gonna play the game here a little bit and try to gauge what I think is the better pitching staffs. Uh, in my head, my logic is big home park and a guy who's won a Cy Young, and I'm gonna take the Marlins
Hmm.
pitching staff.
Yeah, that was my next pick.
Uh, I don't imagine they'll be great, but I just like really don't like some of these other ones. And if I got stuck with two of these really, low on my list pitching staffs, then
It
that
wouldn't
would not
feel
be
good.
good. Yeah.
Oh, all right, here we go. Last few picks here, and Matt is up.
Yes.
Cardinals,
Sadly, I
Twins,
am.
Nationals, and White Sox.
Um, Man, what an absolute bummer. Problem is they all suck, and I don't know exactly statistically why for all of them. Um, Not up to date on my advanced metrics here. What I will say is, and I don't know, um, Nationals pitching staff. Mackenzie Gore is cool,
Yeah. He's
True,
looked great
so
so
true.
far.
and he's looked good. And ex Padre vibes. I can always appreciate some ex Padre vibes. The Nationals are the ex Padres, so
Is that your pick or are you thinking out
that's
loud?
my pick. That's
All
my
right.
pick. I'm just
That's the pick.
I'm convincing myself that it was worth it. I'm justifying it out loud.
Well, all right. Whoops. Um, okay. Now I'm looking at this. You're gonna stick me with the last pick of the draft. And I'm thinking about, do I want that last pick to be an outfielder of my choice or a pitching staff that I do not choose?
Those are two
I
of the options.
I think I got to take my outfielder because I'm scared that if the Cardinals are the last team, I really just don't like any of those outfielders.
Okay.
The White Sox and the Twins, they don't have thrilling guys either. But I'm going to gamble on high upside. Luis Robert had a 40 home run season not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
White Sox will be bad, no doubt. Um,
And you said
maybe
trades
he
don't matter?
right, no, yeah. So that was my other thought. Maybe
Facts
he gets
only.
traded. Maybe he gets
Facts
traded. Maybe
only.
he has a great, uh, you know, first half and gets moved at the deadline. He's the Dodgers center fielder when they win the World Series. Who knows?
Maybe he gets
Uh,
traded to the Rockies.
who
The
we're
Rockies
all
go all in on a
the
Just
surprisingly
goes
competitive
hammer.
year.
the two-win Rockies. Yeah, they're going to be
Yeah.
buyers, but
All right.
yeah, I mean it's not like a pick I had circled as definitely need to take this guy, but if he can get back to his former glory, then that's the steal of the draft.
100%.
Yeah, 1000%. If he is who he used to be, like, you just got one of the best players, period, for basically a last pick. So,
Okay.
ugh. Okay, let's look at some of these names. Okay. So the Twins are trash. I thought they were going to be good, and they're trash. Let's go check out these Cardinals really quick.
In my
Have
head,
a
I'm thinking about the
have a
Cardinals, and I'm only picturing Miles Michaelis, and I just feel like he gives up a million home runs. I know he's only one person though, so like there's that.
At this point, you're taking like a swing on teams. You're almost guaranteed to have at least one of those people.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
look
just based.
right side either way and say, hey, they're in a bad division. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I think I'm gonna have to take the Cardinals. There's more names that I like, and even though Miles, might give up some home runs, I mean, they still got Sonny Gray. They've got a
True.
good closer.
All
well
right.
that
So the
means
Cardinals
I
are
get
Matt's
the
pick, and
Twins,
yeah, Andrew
and
gets the Twins.
I'm thrilled. I wanted them all along.
No,
I,
you didn't.
I,
Don't play
I,
those games.
I
Don't play those mind
totally,
games.
I totally buy the bounce back. I think Joe Ryan Cy Young season incoming. No spoilers for our next segment.
Right, exactly, exactly. It was all, you played the perfect game. You got your pitching staff you would have taken first overall as your last pick. Well done, well done.
There's
All
the
right, so that's it. These are the
It's gonna
rosters
turn out
here.
that we should have picked pitching staffs first. I've got this inkling thinking about how many home runs are hit.
I
well, and
mean,
I should
if
have looked
so,
up
yeah.
what the difference last year between like the least home runs given up by a team and like the most. I didn't even really look. I just looked at like which teams were near the bottom. And I was like, oh, they play bad teams a lot. Like AL Central teams play the White Sox a lot. That helps their home run
That
totals.
helps the numbers. Yeah.
I've got three
Yeah,
AL Central teams in my pitching rotation. I feel great.
good help.
Uh, I think having Shohei Ohtani on my team is just,
Does he
you
get to
know,
play as a pitcher too?
his pitching numbers, if he hits any home runs as a pitcher, they do not count. But uh, Aaron Judge could play DH. You don't know.
No.
True. No, you never know. You
No.
never know. All
Uh,
right. Well, there you go.
all right, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen.
I'll
So
tell you.
everyone,
I'll tell
lock
you
that in.
one. I'll tell you. So far, once a week, Mike Trout does play DH. So you got to be careful of that, and also if he gets hurt. But anyway, it's just one game a
Do
week.
I get to
Um,
sub? Wait, no. Kyle Schwarber's my DH. Wait, so he doesn't get it when like he plays his 1 day in left field a week?
Does he do that even? Do
I'm
they
like
stick him out there?
90% sure he's played like 2 games in left field.
you
Yeah,
never know.
those don't count. It wasn't really meant to punish guys like Kyle Schwarber, but it was
Right.
more to discourage like the more utility guys. But
Yeah.
them's the rules.
All right. So there you go. There's our draft. We'll check in on it periodically, as we go on throughout the season. We'll definitely check in, see where we're at. If the numbers get crazy, we'll check in. But yeah, the winner will be revealed at the end of the year, so can't wait for that. So next up, let's move on. We've got MLB awards that we want to do some chatter about. We want to talk our predictions here. To keep this segment lively, what we're going to do is I will just alternate between you for each award. So we'll start with Drew and the MVP, and then we'll go from there. Matt will give me the Cy Young, Drew will give me Rookie of the Year, and Matt will give me Manager of the Year. And that way we can keep the segment a little bit light on its feet here. So let's just get right into it. And let's start with the big one, MVP. Drew, give me, as a pod, we agree, right? So let's agree on your picks for AL and NL MVP.
Okay, well, I didn't know that I was picking on behalf of all of us. If I had known that, maybe I would have gone a little less bold. I felt bad about my playoff predictions and choosing the Dodgers to win the World Series. I felt like
Ah,
it was a little too safe. So I didn't go like off the wall entirely here, but I didn't choose Aaron Judge and I did not choose Shohei Ohtani this year. I have an inkling that, their numbers won't be quite as high as they've been in years past, and because of voter fatigue, some guys who have, more career years for themselves might sneak in. So my American League MVP, I'm going to go with Seattle Mariners center fielder Julio Rodriguez, who has started off
nice.
strong for the first time in his career. He's had
Yes.
a good start. Um, we've seen high upside potential for him. He's gotten top five in MVP before. Last year was a bit of a down year. Mariners haven't started off so strong, but I think he has, and I think he'll keep it up. So he is my American League pick. And then my National League pick uh, could be a reason why I picked him so early in the Homer draft. I'm going to go with Kyle Tucker in a contract year. I think if the Cubs continue to roll, if they win their division, if he continues to hit, the voters are going to like that a lot. If he can have, like a 40-30 season or something like that, and Shohei just has kind of a regular good hitting season with a few pitching appearances, even though maybe he should, I think the voters could go with a guy like Kyle Tucker. So those are my picks, slash all of our picks.
Yes, slash all of our picks. I really like those picks. I like being bold. I like Julio Rodriguez. I'm supposed to not like him, whatever. I don't care. He's great to watch, really fun to watch. And then, yeah, Kyle Tucker. I mean, look, if you're going to pick somebody in the NL, not Shohei Ohtani, that's not a bad person to pick. And so, yeah, I think, contract year, I agree. And so, yeah, you know what? I'm with you. I'm with you here. All right, so let's go to Cy Young, and let's go to the pitching side. Matt, give us the AL and NL Cy Young.
Yeah, for me, I've got on the AL side a guy I talked about the entire time this offseason. I think Garrett Crochet is gonna kind of be him. I think when you give him a good team, all of a sudden a great pitcher who gets wins looks even better. Um, yeah, I think Garrett Crochet has a real chance at AL Cy Young. Um, my NL pick, just because it kind of seems like it might have to be, is Paul Skeens. Like he kind of seems legit like he's that dude. And he's come out and he's been really good to start this season as well. So it wasn't just like a flash in the pan rookie thing. Um, yeah, I think both of them. I mean, we're just talking about guys who absolutely throw gas. Um, they're intimidating on the mound. I think both of them could be really cool Cy Young winners this year.
Yeah, I feel totally comfortable with that being a representative of my choices. Good
Yeah.
picks.
Yeah, I watched last week that Garrett Crochet. I forget who it was against, but that eight inning, like eight
Orioles, yeah.
inning, nine strikeout one. Yeah, the Orioles. Oh man, absolute cinema, absolute
Yeah.
cinema.
And
Loved
he
it.
hasn't even
Uh,
had like, he hasn't even had the good stuff yet, like the real good stuff, and he's still getting out. I'm excited to see it.
Against good teams too. And then Paul Skeens. Okay, so yesterday I'm not really online, like I don't have exposure to like stuff like that. Just yesterday I saw some of the pictures from the GQ cover that or articles that he did. Wow. Wow. They're really something. And so you know what? You have a photo shoot like that, maybe you're really feeling it and you want to throw it out there. Why not? Why not for the Cy Young? Um, all right, good. And then from here, let's go to Rookie of the Year and let's go to Drew.
Yeah, so Rookie of the Year is always a tough one because it always seems like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's the top prospects, and then it's like these guys come out and you've never heard of them, and they have a really good year, and then you never really hear of them again. So a lot of things can happen here, but I am gonna go with a little less bold maybe than my MVP picks. For the National League, I'm gonna go with Roki Sasaki. I know he struggled out of the gate. He had a good game in Philly this last week. Um, with Dylan Cruz starting as bad as he has, and just not a it's not a super stacked National League field as I understand it right now. There can always be breakout guys. I'm not discounting that, but I just think that Roki, if he stays on the field, if the Dodgers keep winning, he has such electric stuff. I have a feeling the voters they like the Japanese guys when they come over.
He's got the big
So
market too.
yeah, so he's my pick. Maybe a bit boring, but
That
that's
was my pick
that's
too.
for National League. And then for the American League, I went with my boy and Matt's boy too. I went with Christian Campbell. He was hot out of the gate and he got the contract extension. I think there is a benefit in the fact that he was up on the opening day roster. He'll play the whole season versus guys who come up later in the year. They have less time to really prove themselves. So I think
Yep.
the full body of work I think it'll balance out. I expect him to have a really solid year, and they like when top prospects do well. They tend to get a little extra bump uh, in the voting. So I think Christian Campbell, Rookie of the Year.
Some good stuff for the Red Sox so far. If things go our way, the Red Sox will have a good year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think I agree with those. Like I said, I think I would have also picked two rookies who started the year on the opening day roster. I think that definitely helps. a ton. There may be guys who look better coming in the future, but I think I would have also stuck with people who started on the opening day roster for sure. Okay, well, let's round it out here. Manager of the year, one of the more this award. I always like tuning in for this one because it's pretty like I think it's the one that's wrapped up the earliest, maybe.
They always
You
announce
know,
them one day at a time,
yeah.
right in a row, and this is the first one.
And I think also like it's the one that you can kind of get a sense for
Oh,
earlier
I see.
than
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
the
yeah.
rest of them as well. Like you
Yeah.
can kind of get a sense for what's going to happen. And so let's see what Matt has a sense for manager of the year.
Yeah, so when I was making this earlier, I'll start AL again. I have had a lot of really high predictions for the Red Sox this year. I predicted them to go to the World Series. I predicted them to have a
True.
Cy Young winner. We, as a podcast, apparently have them having a Rookie of the Year. A lot of awesome things. So for AL, my Manager of the Year so far has got to be Ron Washington. Um, I just can't believe they haven't lost a series. I know we're only like 2 weeks in, but like, dude, the Angels are kind of doing what every year of the Angels has been since like 20, I don't even know, but like it's what they say that's going to happen every year, not what actually happened. This year they're actually kind of doing it. They're hitting really
Nice.
well. They're winning games against teams that are real. Like real teams they're winning against. So Ron Washington is far and away the runaway for AL Manager of the Year. Um, Flipping to the other side, another team that's been really hot, another personal favorite. I'll keep it short. I think Mike Schilt finally gets some attention. People were kind of starting to write off the Padres. Not that they're going to be bad, but that how could they compete? How could they? And yet they've come out and they've looked really good. And they've had some players who people have probably also given up on who have been hitting. We've got Martin Maldonado hitting like 340 right now or something stupid. Like, if they keep winning and they're able, you imagine if the Padres win that division, I think it's a shoe in. Like, we'll see. But right now, I think those would be my two picks for Manager of the Year.
I think those are good picks. I think that award almost always ends up being who's the manager of the team that defied expectations the most. And so, yeah, if the Angels keep it up, then there's no doubt Ron Washington will be manager of the year. Uh, and similar vibes for Mike Schilt. They would be his second. I believe he won one when he was the Cardinals manager.
I
Um,
think so.
yeah, I think when I thought we were going to pick our own, Mike Schilt and Bob Melvin were the two guys I was tossing back and forth because it kind of exactly what you said. Like if the Giants, similar to the Padres, like
Mhm.
lower expectations, even, but like yeah, if either one of those teams goes far, if the Padres win the division, then yeah, Mike Schill, manager of the year, I think no question.
No, 100%. And I mean, so far they look good.
Mhm.
I will say this. I'll have to if Ron Washington wins manager of the year in the AL, I'll have to come up with something that I'll have to do because that would be incredible. I don't even know what would need to happen for that to be the case. But I mean, look, like I said, it would be cinema if he did it. I'll say that. But okay, so those are it. Yeah. Any last thoughts on awards? Do you have do you guys? Let me do this. Do you guys have a pick that you were really passionate about that we didn't get to that you wanna get out there? Feel free to shoot one. Maybe one category you didn't pick. Something you really feel good about.
I mean, the only pick that I would put out there, and granted, I actually agreed with a lot of the picks that Drew had, um, that they absolutely were good candidates. But the one thing I'll say is, I mean, he got hurt, but if he comes back and doesn't really have any fall off from it, Fernando Tatis could end up being the National League MVP as well. Just his base running, his power, his contact, everything, playing from the leadoff position too, like I think we're going to see a really exciting year for him. I had him as my NL MVP, yeah, MVP. So who knows? That'd be my one.
Yeah, so between Cy Young and Manager of the Year, I'm not really passionate about Manager of the Year. It always seems like, oh, okay, that guy won. Cool, good for him. Um, it's like kind of crazy. Like, for example, this is just like a fun fact. Gabe Kapler has more Manager of the Year awards as a Giants manager than Bruce Bochy did. And that's just one. Bruce Bochy never won one as the Giants manager. So that's like, just kind of goes to show how these work. But I
Yeah.
will say for Cy Young, like the one pick that I had that Matt didn't, even though Crochet was definitely in consideration, I went with Tariq Skubal winning back to back. And the reason behind that is A, he's really good, and B, it just kind of seems like the arc for a lot of the great pitchers of our time is like they have a run. They have like a 3, 4 year run where they're just really, really good, one of the best in baseball. And so I have a feeling like, okay, maybe he sneaks another Cy Young in this year, and we'll see how his career works out long term. I have no indication that he'll be bad at any point, but I just based on what we've seen it with Jacob DeGrom, we've seen it with Corey Kluber, we've seen it with just a lot of guys. They have these little runs where they're the guy for a
Stretches of
minute.
dominance.
Yeah, so that was kind of my mindset behind Scooble being the pick, but Crochet definitely going to be in the running there.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, good stuff there. All right. So those are our awards picks, plus a little extra that we feel passionate about here. But okay, so let's move on and let's go for a stop in the fan corner. This is one of the more places we can have a little fun here. So let's stop in fan corner. Let's start with Matt for fan corner. So what's going on with the Padres? We talked about them a little bit already earlier, but let's go to the Padres.
Yeah, dude. The Padres have just been surprising, I think. We've played, in my opinion, really good teams. It hasn't been one of those like things where it's like, oh, hot start, maybe aided by playing some bad teams. Like the Braves have been underperforming without a doubt. The Braves are still a really good team, in my opinion, a really talented team. And then you also have like the Guardians, who I believe are still a good team. You've got the Cubs, who have shown they can be pretty good. So the fact that we've come out, we were the first team to 10 wins. Right now we are in first place in the division, which I will never take for granted in a division with the Dodgers. Um, dude, I'm riding high. I mean, I a little bit had a cursed moment where the first time this season I didn't actually tune in and watch at least a part of the game was the game where we had Fernando Tatis and Jake Jackson Merrill that day also went on IL, and Jake Cronenworth also went out that game. And it was like the one game I hadn't watched, and I was like, that's my bad. That's like for sure, that's my bad. But aside from that, it's been all good vibes. So, Padres are doing good.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about those three guys that went down all in the same game. Are they gonna sound like they're gonna be fine?
So Merrill went on IL 10 day, and it sounds like he'll be fine. It was more precautionary, but that was a hamstring for him. Fernando Tatis left the game after a kind of gross looking swing and
Mhm.
was said to have re-aggravated the surgically repaired shoulder. Um, Schilt says day to day he hasn't been placed on the IL yet, so we'll see. Um, and then I haven't heard much on updates from Jake Cronenworth, but I'm sure he'll roll in at some point. But
Right.
yeah, we'll see, man.
All right. All right, good. All right, well, there's the Padres. I'll go next, and we'll talk about the Angels. Um, well, they haven't lost a series yet, which is a plus. Um, uh, I've been watching
Manager of the year frontrunner too.
and seeing, yeah, manager of the year frontrunner Ron Washington. It's funny if you ask Angel fans, they just stopped calling for his head, and it's already crazy. But anyway, look, the Angels, they have had a really good week. They, for the most part, They dropped their home opener, which was a little bit of a bummer, but they won that series. So, all's well that ends well. I think the most interesting thing that's happened for me personally as an Angel fan in the last week, I would say, is a moment in their second game against or their first game against the Rays on Tuesday. It was a really close game. It's the bottom of the ninth, and it's 4-3 Angels. There's two runners on at third and first, and Jansen's up on the mound with two outs. And it's kind of a situation that Angels fans have found themselves in a lot over the last, 10, 15 years. The veteran pitcher is on the mound. The veteran pitcher acquired in the offseason is on the mound in a high leverage spot. The game is lost. And it looked like it was trending that way because he had been on the mound all inning. Two base runners, two outs. It's a long inning so far for him, especially for Jansen as a closer, not used to pitching that much. And so kind of as an Angel fan, you're like, okay, like I know how this goes. Like this runner from third is going to come in and score. But it was kind of a fun reverse of that where, Jansen called a meeting on the mound. He starts pointing in every which direction, barking orders at people. The infield's in, the pitching coach is in, and it's clearly Jansen who's running the meeting there. And our wonderful color commentator, Mark Gubasa, the former pitcher, he sort of gives his insight as to what might be going on. And he's like, it looks like, Jansen's telling everybody where to play, like where he wants them to play. And it looks like he's asked them to play back. And so he wants the infield to sit back on this hitter. And the risk of that, obviously, is that the runner from first can walk to second base. And the winning run is then in scoring position, with this batter up. And so that's what happens. The infield plays back. The runner walks to second base. And now, it's a much more dangerous situation. I'm clenched. And then Jansen strikes out the pitcher strikes out the batter on 3 pitches, 3 fastballs, strikes him out. And it was just really a fun moment for me as an Angel fan this week where it was like, oh, like that's pretty, like I prefer that way of ending it than the way it's gone the last 10 years. And so, yeah, just watching that was fun. It kind of illustrates why this team has started well. The bullpen has been, at times shaky. Solid, I think. And it's kind of the story of that. They do sort of dig in and sort of, make things happen when it needs to happen. Kyron Paris has continued to play well. He doesn't qualify yet for at-bats for hitting stats, but if he did, he would be leading in OPS and all those great things like that. So we'll see when he qualifies, where he sits on that list. But you have Logan O'Hoppe starting really well. He's a qualified hitter right now, and he is inside the top 15 in most things. And so, a lot of the young players for the Angels have really stepped up. Jose Soriano starting off well. He looks like he might be, ace potential, by the end of the year if he continues this path. Today, again, this is on Thursday the 10th. He threw almost 8 full innings, 7.2, and 1 run allowed in the same park where his hitters were hitting 11, hitting, a million home runs, scoring 11 runs. So, he's pitching well, and the Angels started off well. I think this next week is going to be very interesting. We're playing the Astros, Rangers, and Giants all before we record next, or not before we record next. The Giants are after that, but Astros and Rangers on the road before we record next. So that'll be interesting to see where they're at after those series. Those will be really telling. But that's the Angels for now. Drew, Red Sox?
Yeah, well, just to add to that, like, I had a front row seat to the Kenley Jansen experience for the last 2 years. And he is, at this point in his career, he's a bend, don't break type of closer. A lot of traffic. Someone that they thought the pitch clock would really affect because he likes to be very deliberate and all that. But he gets his saves. He gets them in.
3 for 3 this year so far.
Yep. So, yeah, the Red Sox, very up and down. Since we last talked, they had a great home opening series against the Cardinals, scored 1 million runs, swept them. It was really fun, really awesome. They unveiled the new home run celebration for the year, which is maybe yes, I'm biased, but, not the camera thing. everyone has their like hand motion thing, whatever, but the home run celebration specifically in the dugout is this head that's supposed to look like Wally the Green Monster, the Red Sox mascot,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. It kind of looks like a Muppet version of Wally or something. It's
Mhm.
awesome. It's like maybe the best one I've ever seen because it just looks so insane, and they all look so joyous when they have it on. Um, so that's cool. And then they hosted the Blue Jays for a four-game series and promptly forgot how to hit. They did end up sneaking out a win today to salvage not getting swept, but they lost the first three games. Just can't. It was very, very cold and like wet, so I'm not gonna necessarily think of this as a trend, but it just wasn't very fun to watch these games. There were some hard hit balls that just died because
Yeah.
that's just the way the air was. The defense has been really bad, which was the problem for years. We hoped that it would improve with Bregman and Story being healthy and all that. I'm not overly worried about that, but it is something that's going on. But Rafi, in good news, Rafi is fully back. His numbers look normal again. He's already top, like close to the top of the leaderboard in like these hard hit rates and things like that. So he just needed some time, and everyone, that was panicking about him looks a little silly. And then like this was just kind of like a minor thing, but it's like a thing that kind of demonstrates the new Red Sox. They traded Quinn Priester to the Milwaukee Brewers, and he was
Mhm.
this depth starting pitcher we had, who we traded for last year from the Pirates in a kind of former prospect for former prospect type of trade. Each team hoping for like a change of scenery, might improve their play, what have you. But Quinn Priester got surpassed by a couple guys on the depth chart where he didn't make the team out of spring despite there being injuries. He was AAA depth at this point, and the Red Sox were able to trade him for a lottery ticket prospect, and like a 19-year-old prospect. So we'll see. Maybe he ends up being something. A player to be named later or cash. So that's just a little something to look forward to later. And then like this compensation round draft pick that's like the 33rd pick in the draft this summer, which for Quinn Priester, who was like eighth, ninth on our starting pitching depth chart, I mean that's a
Mhm.
ton. I know the Brewers were desperate for starting pitching,
Sure
um,
are.
but I like that's just I can't believe like we got
Yeah,
all that. So uh,
that's huge.
that makes me feel good. There's a Red Sox documentary out on Netflix now,
Doc's out.
a series that followed them last season, which is very funny. Like we're gonna look back at that someday. Like why that team that year, I don't know, but um, I've only watched the first episode. It's good stuff because it's Netflix makes it. It's high quality production. You can kind of see similar to Hard Knocks, where you see a side of things that you don't normally get to see. Um, but uh, we'll talk about more of that down the road as I watch it. But
Hmm.
when I did go to Boston last summer, and we went to a game, and after the game, hung out at a bar, and then we were leaving the bar, and I saw Tristan Casas walking down the street, and the Netflix crew following him. And it's like, oh, okay, okay. So Tristan Casas definitely a main character in this thing. Uh,
Are you in it?
so I don't know. I wasn't in the first episode. I didn't sign anything, so maybe they
We
blurred my face.
we need
Um,
royalties.
so we'll see. It was mid-June, so when we get to that point in the doc, if they follow him after a game, he was injured at the time. He wasn't playing, so we'll see. But
See.
that's what's going on with the Red Sox. It would have been a much bleaker update if they had lost today. It'd be bad, but they're only a game out of first. They're at exactly 500. I'm not giving up any hope on this team yet.
Speaking of
Yeah.
Muppets. Oh, you said Bleecker. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. Okay. So yeah, we'll now leave fan corner, spread the love throughout the league, and lock in some predictions for next week. So let's hear them. Matt, give me your NL and AL predictions for next week. I see in the doc we wrote them down, so we're not gonna forget them this time. Okay, it's
Yeah,
gonna
not
be
gonna
good.
forget them. Need to make sure these are locked in. I'll start with the NL. I do believe by the end of this week, the NL West is going to hold four of the top five records in all of baseball. Um,
Mhm.
I just believe in the Diamondbacks and their ability to win some games. The Giants have looked shockingly good, and they could lose a few and still potentially sit in the top five. Same goes for the Padres, and I don't expect the Dodgers to be losing much at all. I do think in the NL West we're going to see a really it already is so top heavy, and I think we're really going to see just dominance from the NL West in the NL. Yeah, do you want both or just the NL?
Go with the AL too.
Yeah, so uh, walking back everything I said earlier, my prediction is that the Angels will lose their first series. I feel like I had to hedge my bets. I've been a little willy nilly with my predictions and things, if you will. So I've really got to tame it down here. The Angels, famously losers, will lose a series this week. Doesn't mean they'll lose all of them, but they will lose at least one. So
I hope
those are
kind of
my
like
predictions.
I hope kind of like the opposite thing happens with your pick this week, where because next Thursday when we'll be recording, the Angels play the Rangers at 5, and so we might be able to live check in on that. Maybe they win the Houston series, and then they split with the Rangers the first two games, and then we'll be able to live see if you get it right.
If my predictions are
In the
busted
record.
by the Angels being consistent winners, that's a recession indicator.
So true, so true. Okay, so let's get Drew's picks in there for NL and AL.
Yeah, interestingly enough, mine like kind of relate to yours. So
Yeah.
my National League prediction is about specifically the San Francisco Giants. They go on the road. They play 3 in New York against the Yankees, and then 4 in Philadelphia against the Phillies. That is a
Easy.
tough road trip.
Yeah.
And my prediction is that they come away with at least a winning record on that trip. I'm not going to say they go in and like sweep, but I think the Giants have looked good enough. Um, I think their pitching has looked good enough and their bats have done enough. I think we learn a lot about the Giants this week in terms of their future this year. This is as tough of a road trip as it gets in Major League Baseball, and if they go
Hmm.
through with a winning record, I think Giants fans can feel very happy about their team and optimistic going forward. And then the American League, I think the Astros are gonna really cement themselves as a good team in this week and really kind of bulk up their position in the standings because they do play the Angels. And credit to the Angels where credit's due. They have looked good. I don't. I'm not sold on them being a good team. So they host the Angels for 3, and then right after that, I forgot who they play, but I had looked before. They play the Cardinals for 3 in St. Louis. Cardinals, I just witnessed firsthand. Very, very bad.
Very
Um,
bad.
so I think the Astros have a really good week. I think we're like, oh yeah, that's the Astros. That doesn't mean, they surpassed the Rangers in my prediction of division champs or anything like that. But I think, we're getting to the time of year, 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in. Um, we're starting to, see what these teams actually are, versus, a lot can happen in the early part
Yeah.
of the season. And I think those are flip sides. I think the Giants were pleasantly surprised by. I think we'll continue to be pleasantly surprised, and I think the Astros will be kind of where we expect them to be.
Hmm. Yeah, nice. I like all those. I like all those. These are good ones. So we'll check in next week and see how we did. Same way we did this week. And all right. So let's go to our what is our most consistent segment. What's maybe our favorite? Our namesake segment, Dingers and Stingers. So I haven't really said over the last couple episodes, but this is one good thing from the week in sports and one bad thing from the week in sports. The good thing is the dinger, the bad thing is the stinger. And so let's start with our. I want to end on the good vibes, so let's start with the stingers, and we'll start with Matt.
Yeah, my stinger for the week, I step away from football or from baseball a little bit to talk about my sport, talk about football. I
Yeah.
literally had to call my dad this afternoon, bother him in the middle of the workday because I was distraught. I was absolutely terrified. The Rams today maybe made the biggest mistake of the offseason. And for anyone who's in the know with the Rams, they'll understand my pain. The Rams re-signed Troy Reeder, famously somehow our starting inside linebacker for the last like 3 years. Um, Routinely, you can find him 10 to 15 yards away from the football, and it's so scary because the Rams are really usually pretty intentional with their moves. They don't just sign people for nothing. They don't just be bringing people in for no reason. The Rams have routinely been picked as a team primed to select one of the top linebackers in this draft if they fall to them. And the signing of Troy Reeder, in my heart of hearts, I know means the Rams are probably out on like the first four rounds of linebackers. And that sucks because the three teams I'm most worried about in the NFC this year run the ball on average 30 to 40 times a game. And we're going to be running out four corners and three defensive linemen. Like it doesn't match up to the competition. It's yeah. I could go on for a while on this. It makes me actually like pretty upset, but I'll leave it at that. The Rams have hurt my feelings this week. It stings. It's a stinger.
Certainly stings. Yeah, I am not super familiar by name with Troy Reader, but look, if you say he's bad, I believe you. Or maybe just not what you want. Maybe not necessarily just the absolute dog water, but just not what you want. But yeah, that's unfortunate. All
Yeah.
right, so stinger for Drew. Let's pop over.
Yeah, my stinger, it's a very big topic that I'm going to try to just briefly discuss. With the dropping of the Netflix documentary for the Red Sox, the one of the stories that came out was Jaron Duran, our star outfielder, attempted suicide a couple years ago when he was a young player who was not very successful in the major leagues. And while I think it's great that he's sharing his story, and I think it's already helping a lot of people, and I think if you're someone who ever struggles with suicidal thoughts or depression, definitely reach out, get help. There's so many resources out there. It's a way bigger topic than I am qualified to discuss. But I think what it reveals is that, and we all know this, sports fandom is kind of insane and kind of evil in a lot of ways, where, you know, Jaron Durant's just a player on the Red Sox. He makes some mistakes in the field, doesn't perform very well, and he's on social media getting death threats and or people just telling him to kill himself and things like that. And while I know there are many, many, many great fans who never do that sort of thing, uh, it's so easy for people to forget. Like these are human beings that are trying their best, and like this is like a very high pressure situation, and mental health is no joke. So I mean, you hear about it all the time. Like even like college football, a guy misses a field goal and he gets death threats, and like his address is out there, and it just um, human lives are way more important than any of these games that we watch.
Yeah.
And I think I try to, associate myself with good, stable-minded fans who won't go to extreme lengths to insult players and make them feel bad. But it's just don't don't do it. Just be a
Yeah.
fan of the team and be upset when they're bad, but don't take it out on anyone. And again, if you're struggling, then reach out, and there are a lot of people in your life who love you.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see, because I've heard of this part of the documentary as well, but I think
Mhm.
it's somewhere deeper in it, right? Into the
I
like
think it's
deeper
like the
into the
fourth
documentary.
episode or something like
Or
that.
okay, so yeah, I'll be interested. I'll be interested to hear about more about what all he goes into, and what it all looks like when I see it. But yeah, it's definitely I think speaking out about that kind of thing can sometimes help to, um, change the way that people, do things a little bit. The more they can associate an actual face and voice with, the struggles that they hear about, I think that it helps change people's minds about, what they do and say, both online and in person, when they're at the stadium too. I think because yeah, baseball too, like it's the one where you're pretty close to where the players are. They can hear you. You can say things where in the heat of the moment that you may not mean, but that they can definitely hear you say because you're that close to them in proximity. So I think with baseball especially, it can be a little bit more. This can happen a little bit more frequently than in other sports, especially live in person. So yeah, it'll be interesting to hear if he has any stories about specific moments. But yeah, for sure, it'll be interesting to see. Um, okay, so let's go on to dingers now. We'll bounce back to Matt for the dingers of the week, and let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, going off that, like I agree with everything Drew said. Like if you guys are struggling, reach out. Like even if it's to us or just a friend, a loved one, it doesn't matter. Like Drew said it. Human lives are more important than the sports and the games we watch. Um, but with that being said, you know, dinger of the week is the Padres are good. I don't got much else to say aside from that. Like that's just a good thing. They didn't lose a lot of games, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, as
Yeah.
long as the Padres end up, as long as the Padres end the week, tops of the league, it's hard to not continue to talk about how great that is,
That's what I'm saying.
as a fan.
It's hard for that to not be the best news of the week for me as being in first place.
Yeah, as long as you can have that, take it for sure in that division. So okay, so let's end with Drew's dinger for the week as
Yeah, I'm
well.
gonna go. I'm gonna go outside of our normal sports talk and talk about something major that happened in another sport that we never talk about. Alexander Ovechkin broke the all-time goals record in the National Hockey League. He passed Wayne Gretzky, who still has tons and tons more points overall because of all his assists. But it's just I'm not a big hockey fan at all. I hardly follow it, but whenever these major records get broken, I just love to see it. LeBron got the all-time points record a couple years ago. That was awesome. I remember being a kid when Barry Bonds broke the all-time home run record. That was awesome. Like, I just love seeing this kind of stuff happen. And so Alexander Ovechkin, who, like, I used to be a kid reading Sports Illustrated for kids, and so there was maybe like 4 or 5 hockey players I had even heard of at that time because they would just show up in that magazine,
Mhm.
and Ovechkin's one of them. I think it's really cool. And from what I can tell online, again, I'm not a big follower. Like he's just had a great year. Like he's old and he's still just putting in the work and getting a ton of goals and all that. So that's cool. I just think that's cool when that happens. So good for him. Congrats to him. And that'll be my hockey news for this entire run of this podcast.
The
Yeah, I
thing I
mean,
think was
yeah.
cool about that record too is, and it's one that I think is hard because you never see stuff that's so perfectly like compared. They did it in the same number of games.
Oh, I didn't even know
It
that.
was I'm like 90% sure it was like 846 games was when he set the record, and 846 is when the record was broken for Ovechkin. Like
That is cool.
that's poetry. That's poetry that in the exact same number of games played, you broke the record by one. Like, because I feel like with a lot of other sports, that's what always gets talked about. It's like, oh, LeBron broke the record, but LeBron played for
Blah
six
blah
more
blah. Before
seasons
again.
and blah. And it's just there's always something that can kind of be leaned to. And for this, it's like no, they at the same exact time. Like I feel like that's pretty rare for records of like that
Yeah,
standard.
that's cool. I didn't know that. That makes it extra
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, super good. Always love to see, an all-time record get broken. We've seen a lot of that in our lifetimes for sure. Hopefully, we'll see some more. From here, I think, yeah, when this was coming up, like when it became, possible at the beginning of the year, I did hear a little bit about it in like the sports podcast that I listen to and the sports news that I follow. And I was like, that guy's still playing? How old is that guy? Like, oh my God.
yeah,
And then, I looked it up
yeah.
and I was like, man, yeah, man, he's still going. And so, good for him, man. Hockey's one of those sports that, it's sneaky, but you can play it for a really long time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You think it might be not that way because of how well conditioned you really have to be to play, at a high level. But you can sneakily play that sport for a really long time, and so good for him. All those years putting it in. Now he's got the record. So nice work. So that's our show for this week. Next week we will be talking all things NFL draft. It will be our last show that we record before the NFL draft takes place. Stay tuned. We might have a little something special planned for NFL draft day. Don't know yet,
Yeah.
but we might have something special planned for that. So, but next week we'll talk NFL draft a lot. Get our thoughts in on that, and then so that'll be the highlight for next week. A little preview for you. But for now, thanks for watching. Hopefully, this draft was entertaining as for you guys as it was for us to do. It'll give us a great chance to catch up with things later on. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, feel free to share us around, share the love. We love to be shared around. Until next time, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.